Hey, seasoners, welcome back to another installment of the Travel and Tourism Podcast, my first season. My guest today worked for Club Med from 1976 to 1978. His first season was in Club Med Martinique as a Snorkeling and Picnic G.O, but later taught yoga and Kung Fu. He was born in Montreal, where he started acting at 5 years old and holds a black belt in karate and a black sash in Kung Fu. Now living in California, smart man, please help me welcome Mr. Eric Levine. Hey, Eric, how are you today, sir?
Salut pour la vie. Greg, that's Creole for wrestling with life.
Okay, nice. So you speak French, English, and Creole? Any other languages we should know about?
I speak a little bit of Thai, but not that much. I
Okay.
shouldn't really say that,
All right. So you are a Montreal native. You kind of grew up in Montreal for a bit, right?
Yeah, so I speak French. I was born in Côte Saint-Luc in 1955.
Wow. Okay. And do you come back to the city at all? Like once a year?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, I come back once every year or two. I bring my son to see his, he loves to see this high school that I never went to, and might meet my friends and whatever families around. So I take him.
And please say you come back in the summer, not winter.
Right. Of
Okay.
course.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So we mentioned your martial arts background, but about how old were you when you started learning martial arts?
I was a teenager, ended up in Chinatown, Montreal, in the toughest, roughest place on the planet. The instructor was from the Philippines, also had let's say, a checkered background.
You said your instructor was from the Philippines?
Yes.
Now, let me ask you, because, probably like me, did you idolize Bruce Lee or want to be Bruce Lee?
When I started, my instructor's nickname was Kato. And so it was just at the Bruce Lee Green Hornet level, like Five Fingers of Death and all those Kung Fu movies hadn't started yet. Kung Fu TV show hadn't quite started yet. But my instructor, Kato, absolutely represented whatever legendary Bruce Lee stuff. I think my instructor was just as good.
Okay. Well, we'll get into how your martial arts training came in handy in Club Med, but I also want to talk about your acting a bit, because I said you started at 5 years old and you did a commercial when you were about 7 years old. Is that right?
Yeah, I started at Dorothy Davis Children's Theater on Girard Street in Montreal. Lauren Green had graduated, William Shatner, a few big Canadian stars. And so we started children's theater. We would perform the usual children's stuff like Pinocchio and Beauty and the Beast. And we would have auditions for commercials quite often, where they would need a child actor. So I did a Johnson's commercial, Johnson's wax commercial. I forget how much money I made, probably $35, but 62, probably worth about 500 today. So it was exciting.
And like the famous actors you mentioned, Lauren Green and William Shatner, famous actors from Montreal, you also left for California like they did. Did you realize that?
Yeah, I did. And in a little tie-in, maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but one of the guests at Club Med, Lyle Wagner. You may remember him from the Carol Burnett show, for Wonder Woman.
Yes, I met him my first season in Club Med. Yes.
Oh, really? So
Yes.
he's coming back. So he actually got my green card for me.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Well, wait a
From
minute.
that
See,
connection
now this is interesting. So how do you meet Lyle Wagner though?
well, he came to Martinique,
Oh,
and I was
okay.
the animator, and we became friends with him and Sharon, his wife,
Yes.
beautiful Sharon, and we became friends. And I remember him saying, "So what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I was an actor all my life. I'd love to give it a shot in America, but I don't have my green card." He said, "Oh, if I can help, I will." And he laid something on me that I'll never forget to this day. He said, "Eric, when you're on stage and you just finished a picnic with 250 people and you were the captain of the Olympic team with another 200 people, they want to love you when you're on stage. So even if you're so-so, they're going to cheer like never before. You're not really that good."
Oh, he's a great guy. Like he was so nice to me too. My first season. Shout out Lyle Wagner. What a great guy, right?
He was both of them were really, really great.
Yeah. All right. So now let's speed up a little bit. So how does one like yourself living in Montreal, Club Med is, relatively, I'd say, not well known, not unknown. But how do you find out about Club Med?
Well, that's also pretty interesting. My girlfriend's mother at the time, who she didn't really like me, told me to go get the Newsweek magazine. And it was winter time and it was like a blizzard. And I had to walk, quarter of a mile to the local mall there to get the Newsweek magazine. She insisted I got it. And on the cover was a beautiful Christy Brinkley type of model. And she told me, I mean, I read the title. The title got me. The title said, "The G.O.s," who knew what that meant, "the G.O.s of Club Med, the true gypsies of the world." And I just started to read that as fast as I can. And by the end of that article, where they talked about a G.O.'s life, and at the end of the day, after the party and all the fun that they had, the maids came and cleaned up the next morning. That was it. I I stayed up all night creating a resume to send to France, which was Place de la Bourse, and I sent my resume in by however the speed, the speedy mail we had at that time, and I gave it my best shot. I put everything I knew into that resume, and I was in. There was no way that I wasn't going to get a job as a GO at Club Med.
Do you think this was your girlfriend's mother's way of getting rid of you? Like, you think she?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
okay, smart lady, huh?
He may have told me that later on when I came back to
Okay,
visit after a couple seasons.
all right. So you
Still
said,
friends with them now.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so okay, that's a great ending, right? Okay. So how does this happen? So did you have to send in numerous applications or just the one?
I sent in that application, and about a few weeks later, I got this letter. I was like shaking, and it said, "Please come for an interview in New York City, 57th Street, on this date." So there's another little very interesting story. So on that, I went to New York, and there was so many gorgeous looking people there. It's like you're at a modeling show, men and women. It was just unbelievable. There was hundreds of people there. And they showed a movie of Club Med, which even pushed me a little bit further. And I did the interview and I thought it went well, left. And about 2 weeks later, I got another letter from them. I was shaking opening up that letter. I still remember to my heart pounding, like, this is what I want. And the first words were, "Félicitations, congratulations. We'll see you in Les Boucaniers, Martinique, April 15th for your 6-month season." It was like I could hear the harps playing. Like, here we go. I'm going from that reality to what I saw in the movie, and I was thrilled. I was thrilled. So, fast forward a couple seasons, and I was doing very well. I got a lot of great recommendations and got a lot of accolades from the chiefs and stuff. And I'm in Cancun, Mexico, and I was doing some sort of strange thing with the Caballeros that I had, the band that I was an animator at the time, that they were kind of at my beck and call. And we'd enter some rooms after midnight, no locks on the doors, and we would play the music, and people would jump out of their beds. We were in full costume. And one of the rooms that I had done that night was the chef de l'animation, who actually hired me. He was the one that did the interview. And he said, "Levine, I know you're crazy. Let's meet for breakfast." So we met for breakfast. And he said to me, he said, "Eric, do you know how many people I hired that weekend?" I said, "Hundreds." He said, "No." So how many? He said, "One, you." I said, "Me? Why me?" I mean, I was like one of those beautiful, one of hundreds of people there that were great. I said, "Why me?" Because I speak French. I mean, I had no idea why he hired me. And he said, "No." He said, "It's that crazy sparkle in your eye. You're one of us." And I said, "Oh my gosh, are you kidding?" He said, "Yep. I was looking for people that were part of our tribe, and you are part of our tribe." And I was so taken aback by that. I felt so wonderful that, he singled me out because of who I was, not because of my education or not because of this or that, but he saw at that moment that I was the right vibration for his team and how he saw the brand of Club Med. And Greg, I used that principle all through my business career, that hiring right, the people that not necessarily have the degrees that are necessary or even the experience necessary, but the vibe, the attraction from the people. Are we going to be best friends? Are we going to be part of the same feeling? I'm really thankful for that interaction that I had.
Excellent. Nice little bookend there. And when you get to Martinique, because you had never actually physically been to that village, did you, and we have to tread carefully here, did you have any idea what I guess, the position of snorkeling picnic would entail in a big singles resort? Were you prepared or unprepared for this?
100% unprepared.
Okay.
A Jew from Montreal doesn't get what a picnic in Martinique is. Let me just put it to you that way.
Or anyone. Okay.
Or anybody on the planet. Not at the beginning.
No. So okay, but your French does come in handy, or like what like the guests back then were they mainly North American, or was it a mixture?
It was a mixture, probably more than half North American, a lot from New York, a lot from Montreal, some from France, some other places in Europe, but let's say 66% North American.
All right, and you get there. Your chef de village is Jean Bizillon. Is that how you pronounce it?
Jean Bissaillon, and he was the one that I don't even know how he always wanted me to do a demonstration in the opening night when all the G.Os were present and they introduced us. He was a fighter. He was a lutte, wrestler, real wrestler, and loved martial arts. And he saw me practicing in the yoga room, and he said, "What's that?" And I said, "Well, it's called Kaiju Kendo. It's a mixture of Kung Fu and karate." And he said, and I did a kata for him, and he loved it. And I used to do that in our opening night. And he asked me if I could teach, so I started teaching there because of his encouragement.
So you're doing snorkeling picnic, you're doing martial arts. So, but how do you get to also teach yoga?
The yoga instructor wasn't available. I don't remember. I think they left. Family reasons. I don't really remember. I had studied yoga and loved yoga, and yoga was just starting to become popular. Boy, we had such wonderful sessions. I used to take them out on the pier at sunset, that beautiful long pier in Martinique. And we used to bring our yoga mats and we used to do it on the pier at sunset. It was a beautiful experience for me as well. I had never taught before. And, teaching is the way you really learn your trade.
And while you were doing all this season, were you looking at what the animator was doing? Because your second season you switched to animator. So were you looking at that guy?
Yeah, I love that. Plus, Nancy Fisher was in charge of entertainment, along with the producer was a man named Beer Can. And so we became friends, Nancy and myself. And she asked me to do Pippin and be Pippin. As an actor, I had been in theater all my life, so maybe I was better than the average, maybe. And I loved it. So we bonded, and she said, "Well, why don't you become an animator? Because this is what you love, and et cetera, et cetera. You're good with the microphone." So that was kind of how that segue happened.
That's crazy. Like when you hear a G.O mention Pippin, like Pippin had just come out on Broadway in 72, and you guys are doing it just like, a couple of years later in the village, right? I mean,
Greg,
that's
we actually went, Nancy, Harvey Schneiderman, who was also a G.O with me, myself, Richard, who was the hairdresser in Martinique. We all met in New York City, and a GM bought us tickets for like great seats for Pippin, for The Wiz, for I
oh
believe
wow.
for Line. So we had a reunion in New York City. Put it this way, Greg, when I saw the real Pippin, I kind of shrunk to this, to
Okay.
1 inch size, realizing that to Lyle Wagner's point, I ain't that great.
Okay. Well, yeah, to be fair, Bob Fosse, he was the original Broadway production,
Yeah,
director. So,
they blew me away.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Well, that's
hey,
pretty
I mean,
cool seeing all that back in the day, right? I mean, on Broadway.
oh, I mean, Broadway then, and I'm only 22, and I'm thinking I would love nothing more to be part of that in some way. And then my real voice said, "Forget it. You're not in that group."
Yeah.
I was happy to be an animator next season in Cancun.
Just a question about Martinique. A while back, we had a gentleman named Kid Mercury, Harvey Richard from Montreal. He spoke highly and a lot of you during his season. So, was this the season that you two met?
Yes, it was. And we used to do lots of pranks together. One of them, which really stood out to, I think, to the members, was we would pretend that we were on the plane with them when they landed in Martinique. And Harvey and I dressed in New Yorker medallions and silk shirts. We had more gold jewelry than you could buy at a jewelry store. We had the ugliest luggage, and we were in cahoots actually with customs and immigration. And Mickey Nitzani was in charge of the traffic, right? In charge of all of that. And he was a dear friend of ours. So everybody was in cahoots. The customs head would call Mickey, ask him if Harvey and Eric were coming this weekend because they just loved what we would do. So we would get in as soon as the plane landed and people were waiting for their luggage. Harvey and I would start our loudmouth New York, like the stereotypical New Yorker who's loud, abrasive, and I love New Yorkers. They were my favorite. So I'm not putting them down, but just a stereotypical problem. And we were so loud and obnoxious and we would play with the customs. And I say, I don't need my passport. I've already paid in advance, and we're not getting on that bus. There's supposed to be a limousine. We have a penthouse waiting for us. We're not going with these people. We're better than these guys. We just made such a ruckus that they were so weirded out by us. We go in their luggage, the customs would chase us and run after us. We would jump over customs and break through, and they pretended that they were going to get us and everything. And the 200 people that landed were aghast. They couldn't believe what was going on. And they were chasing us. And at the end, what they saw, they got on their bus, and we refused to get on the bus because there's supposed to be a limousine taking us to the penthouse. Obviously, there's no penthouse and there's no limousine. And Mickey and I would get into a fight. I'd take the cigar that we had and I put it out on his bald head. And that's the last thing that the people saw on the buses leaving to go from the airport to the club. So they were horrified, just praying that these two maniacs are not going to be at the club. Whatever.
And yeah, excuse me, Eric. And also, wasn't there no shortage of GMs volunteering to the traffic Geo to like kind of take you guys out back, so to speak?
Yeah, we had we had a dozen regular GOs just wanting to see the level of complicity that customs and immigration. I mean, you couldn't get better actors. They chase us with their batons. We jump over the thing. You couldn't do it in any country, but we did it there. And we would drive back and get to the club before them, right? So Club Med Martinique had this hole in the ceiling where we would have ropes and stuff. And it was the chef de village orientation. And you got there was 200 people there, still shaking by what they saw at the airport, praying that we're not there, and we're not there. We're not a part of the club. Everyone's looking, because I heard about this later when I spoke to everybody. Everybody's looking. Where are those guys? And we're not there. So the chief starts his talk. And we had this ugly red bag, the ugliest piece of carry-on luggage you could buy. And in the middle of him talking, from that hole in the ceiling, that ugly red bag comes and hits him on the head. And they all knew that bag was my bag. And oh my gosh, they're here. And then Harvey and I quickly skimmied down the rope. The people were speechless. They couldn't believe it. Like, we made it there. We just disrupted this. We're going to ruin their entire vacation. And for the first couple of minutes, the chef made it seem like, what's happening? What's happening? And then he said, oh, I see you've met our entertainers. This is Eric and Harvey. They're our entertainers. And at first, people still didn't get it. They thought that there's some problem going on, but they finally got it. And that, it took a long time normally to go through customs and everything, like a 2 hour thing plus the hour from the airport. So that 3 hour normally tedious situation, we usurped that. But when we always, as G.O, we brought everybody's luggage to the place and took them to their rooms. When I was taking the group that I had, I heard one of them complaining to a GM that had already been there a week and just came to watch the show. And he was complaining to the GM that had been there a week, saying, those guys are crazy. Da, da, da. And the GM said, oh, no, no. Eric and Harvey, yes, they're crazy, but they made our week so much fun. The skits they did, they made our week so memorable. And I'm sure they're going to do the same for you. And they didn't know that I heard that. And again, that was just another validation that Club Med was free to be whoever you wanted, and you could push the limits on fun and happy, and you could do what you thought would make the experience that much more unique and that much better.
Great story. I would never get tired of hearing that story. Thank you. Let's jump to Cancun now. So you go there in 76, Jackie Amzaleg. Is this the opening of Cancun?
Yes, it was the very first season. And at the time, that spot is called Punta Nizac. And I don't think anybody realized, but what that meant in Spanish, it meant the point where the winds meet. And boy, did the winds meet on our club that first season. We had a lot of things that we had to maneuver. It was very windy and rainy. So as an animator, we had to do a daytime show and a nighttime show just to have the members excited throughout the week.
Excuse me, Eric. I've never heard this before. Are you saying you did a daytime show, like an
Yeah,
45-minute hour show?
Yeah, we had to.
At what time around? What would the daytime show be?
Right at lunchtime, 1 o'clock.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
The beach was so magnificent. We were the only, if you've been to Cancun now, it's wall-to-wall hotels. Well, picture that magnificent beach with only one other hotel, El Presidente, about a mile down the beach. Just us. So the fish, they were black. The sea was black from the abundance of fish. You could walk off your beach where our place was and see groupers that were 6 feet and barracudas that were 7 feet turn right off the beach. And it was virgin. So yeah, we had the wind and the rain, but when you finally got in the ocean and walked on that beach, nothing could compare.
And I assume that since it was the opening, they kind of sent the best of the best there, G.O. wise, right?
I'd like to think so, but I'll tell you what, Jack the Amzalag, he was, for me, the best of the best. Not only when he got on stage was he a phenom, fantastic, but his attitude, he loved the G.Os. He wasn't a chef talking, as the boss. He was one of us and enjoyed every minute of that season. Yeah, we had a lot of challenges, but with his experience and his passion, oh, I wouldn't have traded for anywhere.
And what else happened this season? Anything interesting or some stories, anecdotes come out of it?
Well, a lot of them. I also met Luke Distillman, who was a co-animator with me at the time. I don't know, he became a chef de village. We're still friends on Facebook. He was a master of the stage. And we used to do some sketches. We were thinking about what can we do to really, make the members have fun, besides having, tuxedo lunches under an umbrella with, the band playing for us. We were the ones that started the cold buffet table. Do you know what the cold buffet table is,
No,
Greg?
sir. What is it?
Well, we would do, the night before we would do a sketch, him and I, pantomime, about, the first day you go to lunch and you end up balancing 10 plates back because of all the wonderful food. But by the end of the week, you're more picky, let's say. So with that in mind, you know how long the buffet tables are. We cut holes in the table and we would have a box to sit on. We would mayonnaise our head, green, yellow. We'd put cucumbers, carrots, everything, and we sat in the middle of the table. And you could not see us. We were totally camouflaged. People would come and, let's say, take carrots from my neck, and I would say, "That's mine." And they would shoot their plates up, 20 feet in the air, like the salad is now talking to them. And the people that were there the week before and all the GOs, they were just waiting for that to happen. And we scared the wits out of everybody. It was hysterical.
Okay. And I guess a lot of broken plates. They probably had to tell you at one point to stop doing that gag or what?
No, we were encouraged to do it every
Oh,
week.
okay.
Oh yeah, we were encouraged to do that. We had so many sketches. One time, Harvey and I would go around, like we had bad colds. We were dressed in with blankets and everything, and we'd sneeze on everybody. They'd chase us, or we would have on the first day when they got there, Harvey was at the cash register. We had a cash register and a calculator, and people would come at the end of the buffet table, and I'd say, "Excuse me, where are you going?" And they'd say, "I'm going back to my seat." I said, "Well, you got to pay for that." And I'd take the plates from them, and Harvey was dressed like a cashier, and we said, "Okay, shrimp," and he'd say $6, and he'd say potatoes, $1.50. Oh, he hid some shrimps, double charge him. And they were looking at us like, "What? I thought we prepaid." And again, the people that knew the gag just would stand there and watch us, or we would give them numbers when they arrived at the arrival, when the chief was talking. We give them numbers. We said, "What's that for?" "That's the number of your chair. It's on the beach. Go find it." And people would be looking to find their chair. Of course, they didn't have a number, and they would be walking around, looking for their chairs. But by the end of the week, they really loved our gags. I think that they made a difference in their stay.
Okay, I haven't heard the chair one before. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't believe people fall for
yeah,
that one.
for sure.
Anything else from this season, sir?
Well, I just remember how much fun we had. We did everything bilingual. That season, we did The Wizard of Oz bilingual for New Year's Eve. The participation with the GOs and the GMs, we had like 100 GOs in that
Well,
party.
excuse me, Eric. But by bilingual show, are you saying that? I mean, you wouldn't translate every sentence, but there
We
would be a
did.
back and forth. Oh, really? So
We
if
would
the,
do
the
it.
Tin Man
Yeah.
said a line in
We say a line
English,
in English. Yes.
the
We say
same
it
the
in
same
English.
Geo would say it in French.
Yes.
Like,
Same G would say it in French.
wow, was this a 2 hour show or what? How
Yeah.
long did?
It was
Okay,
about a 2 hour,
okay,
full
wow,
on, the Saturday night big shows, they were
yeah.
big productions. And we all tried our best. And this was a complete collaboration with everybody. It showed the spirit of that season, basically because of people like Jackie Amsleg and Luke Distillman. And it was hysterical. It was so much fun. We had another anecdote where, so Bernard was the producer. His wife was a costumier, the costume designer. And Harvey and I, we had this new boy. His name was Carlos, just started. And it was a Saturday night show. And the costume designer was dressed in her beautiful, whatever, sequined outfit. And Jackie Amsleg is standing there with Harvey and I and he was saying, like, "Let's do something funny." I said, "Well, what? What?" And this guy, Carlos, was there. And he says, "I don't know. Get Carlos to go do something." So I said, "Come here, Carlos, come here." Now, remember, this was egged on by the chef de village, right? in the middle of the Saturday night show, when she's doing her walk on with her beautiful costumes, we told Carlos to just go ahead and tackle her like a football player, tackle her. And he goes out. He had no idea not to do that. And sure enough, he goes on the middle of the stage in the middle of the Saturday night show and tackles her. And she starts to fight him off. And the crowd were hysterical. They thought for sure this was part of the act. And of course it wasn't. And Jackie pretended he had nothing to do with it because the show producer, the costume designer after the show wanted Harvey and I to be fired because they knew it was us. And he said, no, give them a second chance. It was very, very funny.
But no one got hurt, right?
No one got hurt
Okay.
except a little bit of bruised ego,
Yeah.
but the crowd roared with hysterics. It was like, I don't know, a Charlie Chaplin
Well,
situation.
from this season, I'm sure whenever you're quote unquote egged on by a chief of village, you're going to think twice now, right?
Well, he never said no. He just wanted the experience to both the GOs and the GMs to be unforgettable. And they were.
I'll say. And then you go back to Martinique, right, in 77 with a chef de village named Marc Bernard and your animator here, correct?
Yes. And that was again, Harvey and I had blended with the Martinicans. There was one Dudu who just she must have been 300 pounds. She just loved Harvey, would have adopted him or married him if she taught us more Creole. But we did things like one of the people, there was a local church there, and they didn't have enough money for their lights. And I did a demonstration for them, a Kung Fu demonstration, and we raised a few $100s for their lights. And we were integrated with them, and we actually became part of the community there. That season, that's how I remember that season. And, I know we're getting towards the end of the interview. Could I talk about what I learned mostly at Club Med?
Well, yeah, just let me ask you one quick question. Are you saying that you were with Harvey again this season?
Harvey, yeah.
Were you guys a package deal because you did 3 seasons in a row?
When I went to work for Club Med first, I was hired, I did everything. Harvey didn't want to go. He had a girlfriend. Well, after I sent him about a dozen 3x5 postcards of my life at Club Med, I got this SOS saying, get me down there. I'll clean toilets. I'll do anything.
Okay.
I'll do anything for free.
Okay.
And desperate. And so I got him to come.
This was your version of the Newsweek magazine, right?
Okay.
All right. Okay. I'm sorry. That's pretty cool. You got to do 3 seasons with him. All right. And you wanted to tell me about what you learned this season or in general?
Well, after Club Med and acting and everything, I opened up my fitness business called California Fitness in Asia. We opened up in many, many countries and grew to quite a big company. And then anyway, without naming too many names, it was a big company. And what I relied on were the principles that I had learned at Club Med. And I got a PhD in branding, in marketing, in spirit, in hiring right, just by watching the philosophy of Club Med. At the time, they had 15-second commercials, Club Med, the antidote to civilization. And I created my fitness company based upon Club Med. When you opened the door, we blew you away. It was before Walkmans. We blew you away with Van Halen and like a Van Halen concert. And everyone that I hired had that sparkle that the chef had told me about. And we created the greatest, most successful fitness company in the world. And it was the branding that I used. It was the marketing that I saw. When we were at Club Med, we were not a 5-star resort, right? We had great food, 4-star. Our accommodations were 3-star. Our sports were 3, 4-star. Our entertainment, 3-star. But when we brought people to leave at the parking lot, they were all crying. not one person wanted to get back on that bus. We gave them an experience that touched their heart. And that's what I use. I mean, California Fitness, it's the experience you get. And it wasn't about anything but that. We touched their heart, their hot buttons, and we were overbooked every single week. And I don't think anyone didn't return. And so I'm so thankful for Club Med to have taught me that. I used it throughout my business career. So I'm humbled and I have so much gratitude for the learnings that I learned.
That's amazing. Would you like to talk about your last season in Club Med in Morea? Because I believe you reunite with Jackie Amzalag for
Yes.
the second time, right?
Yes. Well, Harvey and I were then waiting for our green card. We had moved to Venice Beach, California, which is one of the chef de sports, a big guy named Nat, I forget his last name, told me, he says, Eric, if you don't leave now, you're never going to leave. Why don't you go? And, I said, where should I go? He said, Venice Beach, California. It's kind of a halfway house between Club Med and that reality. So we did. And we realized that our green cards were going to take some time. And thank again to Lyle Wagner for getting mine. Harvey got it through a different way. And so we had a few months to kill. And then we spoke with someone at Club Med and they said, well, Jackie's going to Morea. Would you like to go? And of course we went. I mean, Morea was paradise. Jackie was a good friend of ours. So we did animation and I did PR as well. Harvey, most animation that I did. And it was just a season of, you're in paradise there. And I just remember walking one day from, the end of the show to the nightclub and the warm wind and the smell of the pungent smell of the tiara flowers. And I remember looking up at the stars and I said, this is true freedom. The feeling that I have at that moment, barefoot, good feelings, so many friends, no responsibilities other than being in the present moment. I just remember saying to myself, Eric, please keep this as a snapshot because maybe in the future you're going to need to remember this beautiful, warm sensation of absolute peace and freedom. And I never forgot that.
Because you were at Venice Beach, in the late 70s. So Venice was like the bohemian nexus of Southern California. I'll never get a chance to ask anyone else this, but did you go to Gold's Gym? Did you see Schwarzenegger? I'm sorry to ask you this, but you just happened to be there at the right time of that whole thing, the bodybuilding mecca. So
that's a great question because I went to Gold's Gym.
okay.
I was 150 because we used to wear, very small bathing suits, and that was a French look, thin and skinny. And I went to Gold's Gym and I saw Jurassic Park. I mean, I hide behind their leg.
Okay.
And to make a long story short, I was so excited that I actually bought the name Gold's Gym. I was the first one to buy the name from Venice, California. And I started my fitness career with the first Gold's Gym in Toronto, California.
There's a Toronto, California?
No, I bought it from Venice Beach.
Yeah.
Bought it from Pete Kukowski. He owned the name. And I was, let's say, the first licensee.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. And I opened up 6 locations in Toronto and Santa Barbara with one of the owners of Gold's Gyms in Venice. And that's how I started my fitness career.
Wow, that is so cool. You were
Yeah.
there, man. You were right
Yeah,
there.
I was right there. And all those guys come to do seminars and enjoy themselves in Toronto. And I never stopped. I was so engrossed by the cult feeling of it. It did remind me of Club Med. And again, my first clubs were based upon the feeling and the experience you got at Club Med.
That's right. No, I think you did that perfectly, sir.
Thank you.
Tell me, Eric, from 76 to 78, I know you met a lot of great GOs, but are there any GMs that stood out to you at all that you still remember?
Yes, you may remember he was a comedian actor named Orson Bean.
Yes.
He was so enthralled by Club Med, and he was so bohemian, and he just loved the lifestyle. He actually wanted to become a GO, and he stayed for a few weeks, and he was a genius. And we used to look at the stars, and he would give lectures on everything. And boy, he taught us so much. He just blended right in with us. We had Carl Sagan, the scientist, was there with his telescope, talking about the cosmos. So we had a lot of very interesting people. We had some big movie stars. I'll tell you another funny story. So in Cancun, there's a photo shoot for Vogue magazine, and I hear that there's the supermodel of the world taking pictures. I wasn't paying attention to it. I'm at the bar, and this girl, pretty, nothing, pretty, not the top of what was there every week, but almost. She's smiling at me, and I'm thinking, oh, this is nice, interesting. And I'm thinking, well, I'm comparing her to some of the other GMs I saw that week and just smiling. And to make a long story short, her name was Sue Purdy. That was her. She was the number one supermodel in the world. And we became friends. And when we went off season to London, she took us everywhere. She got us into Harvey and I to parties with the biggest actors in the world. The Godfather, Marlon Brando was there dancing with us, and she got us hotels to stay at. So, I mean, there's a lot of benefits and so many great GMs. If you stop and you ask them what they did, there every week there was people that would educate you and give you connections and open your mind. So again, thanks to all those great people. We had Les Ballets Jazz de Montreal there teaching us really how to dance and the thrills that they gave us when we went to Montreal. So being a GO, it was multidimensional of what we got paid. And again, gratitude for all the people that we met and enjoyed throughout those years.
Is there anything today that you miss about Club Med? Can you narrow it down to one thing or three things?
I can't because there's so many things that I miss about Club Med. The freedom to be anything that you want. There's no such thing as criticism. I mean, Planet Fitness has a no judgment zone, but that's manufactured. It was absolute freedom be the best you can be. And that spirit, that creativity that fostered, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it since then. And I still believe, and everyone says it can't be done, that we could recreate a Club Med based upon that adult freedom. Again, it would have to be, modified for 2024, 25, but not the freedom, the excitement, the magic. I do believe that it can be redone. Probably Elon Musk would have to be the chef de village, and we could recreate it. And it's something that I have in the back of my mind. I don't think it'll come to fruition, but it's always a possibility.
Can I put in my application for chief of sports now, please?
Right?
Okay.
Every GO, we would get him for I was getting paid at the time $60 a month. Okay, with open
Oh,
bar as an animator. I didn't drink alcohol. So I think we'd have 1,000 resumes the first day.
it's true. Yeah, the first hour. Okay. Wow. I don't know what to say. That would be great if that actually, existed, right? I'd go on vacation if I couldn't work there. Okay.
Too.
Have you gone to any of the reunions at all yet or not yet?
I'm planning on going this coming year,
Okay.
you know,
Oh, great.
and I wish the reunion could be part of what I'm thinking about, like the old version of today's version. So I'm cautious about the today's version and the difference.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for sure, for sure. And tell me though, in your seasons, was there one village or one season in particular that stood out above all the others that you would associate the word magical with, or did you just like them all for different reasons?
I like them all for different reasons. The last season in Martinique was so, I don't know, I guess it was because I had already understood the game. I wasn't really learning, but I loved it. So I mean, when we had the end of a sports day, we had 250 adults screaming at the top of their lungs for their team. And the picnics, at the end of the picnic, going back into the club with the band playing when the Saints go marching in, and the look on everybody's face, and like it, it was magical because we were magical and they were magical, and it just clicked. It's one of those when all the vibes are moving in the right direction. We had the right team, the right everything. And the right vibe attracts the right vibe. And the GMs that were coming, I mean, at the airport, many times I heard them say, at the airport, when they just arrived, where do I sign up for Eric's?
I was just going to ask you this, Eric.
Uh-huh.
Literally, just going to ask you this question
Uh-huh.
if it was
It
true.
was.
So it is true. Okay.
It is true. I mean, the reputation of the party was worldwide. They wanted to sign up at the
Yeah,
airport.
they didn't want to see the room. They didn't care. They're like, "Where's the picnic sign up?" Okay.
They wanted the spot on
Yeah,
picnic.
the airline just lost their luggage. They didn't care. Where's the picnic sign up? Okay.
Where I'm going on the picnic, whether it's full or not. There's no question.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's infamous, but at the end of the day, it created long, probably lifetime of memories for the people that were there with us.
Yeah. No, yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Do you ever this is might be a dumb question for you, but it still happens to me. Do you ever dream that you're still back working at Club Med? Or you just don't have that dream?
Uh, the feeling, I mean, that feeling of the freedom that I felt when I was walking that day, I use that probably monthly when I'm having a tough time or trying to decide on something or I can't sleep. That's my go-to feeling, you know, the warmth, the friendship, the freedom that without any responsibility. I mean, to this day, I've never been able to get rid of the Sunday night blues. Like, uh-oh, tomorrow's school, or uh-oh, Monday, work again. At Club Med, other than the fact I had to know what shows we were doing that night, it didn't matter what day it was. It didn't matter what week, what month, nothing mattered. I was so free, and we had no magazines, no TV, no social media, no computers, no phones. It was freedom. And you
Oh no,
know,
you just are. Yeah, I've never heard it put that way. You just are articulated that so well. Like you're right. There was no Sunday blues because Monday's coming and Club Med. You're right. And I worked there for 10 years. I never once had that. I just didn't realize it till you said it.
right? And it didn't matter what was going on. In our world, it was beautiful.
Of course, by now, what I quote unquote in the real world, when someone asks me to go out for a drink after work, I say, it's Tuesday. You didn't say that in Club Med, right? Like,
Every day, you were there for the sunset, for the classical music, or being taught by the best dancers if you wanted to learn how to dance, or listening to Carl Sagan, or, just doing your thing on stage. It didn't matter. I mean, one season we were so overbooked that we literally had to move almost every couple of days. The GO rooms were being used by the GMs just because they just loved it.
where'd they put the GOs? On the beach?
We were 3 and 4 in GO
Oh,
rooms,
okay.
you know. Yeah, it wasn't the easiest of times for those weeks, but at that time it's like literally I had a piece of luggage with probably 4 bathing suits, 4 pareos, 4 t-shirts, 2 pairs of shorts, maybe 1 pair of running shoes.
and,
My
a,
two.
and a toothbrush, right? That's all you need.
Mhm, mhm.
Oh, wow. Simpler times, right?
Now you go on vacation, between you and your family, it's like 20 bags. It's like
Yeah.
you wish you could go back to the freedom of yesterday.
Okay, sir, we are coming near the end of this amazing interview. And looking at your Club Med resume you sent me and all your fun facts, I'm guessing you have absolutely zero regrets about applying and working at Club Med, correct?
Greg, those years were absolutely the greatest of my life. I learned so much about people, about all the things that I've already mentioned that helped me later on in business. To have those years, they're treasures. And I would venture to guess that most GOs are feeling the same way, that those magical, beautiful, it's Peter Pan. We were flying, we're literally flying. And I'm just so grateful to everybody that gave me the opportunity. I would love for my son to go and be a GO. I know it's different now, but still, I'm sure there's lots of great things that he could learn even today. So, total gratitude for everything that I did and learned. Wouldn't trade those days for anything.
And your son could help dad get the family discount too, which can't hurt, right?
Oh, that'd be good. That would be great. That would be great.
Eric, it's been so nice of you and kind of you to share your time and tell us your story. So I really want to thank you for doing that today.
My absolute pleasure.
Well, everyone, that was the amazing, the one and only Eric Levine, and we'll see you all here next week. Would you like to take us out, Eric, and thank everyone for listening?
Yes, thank you all. Wonderful GOs. Keep the community going. I love to be on all the Facebooks and seeing all the pictures and brings back the best memories. The GOs, the true gypsies of the world.
All right. Amazing, then. Thank you so much, Eric. We'll see you all next week, everyone. Bye. Say bye, Eric.
Bye bye, everyone.